destroy any other continuous spells or traps that are up on the field as well.
And in particular, it's quite a nice damage dealer if you're going against Noble Knights. I mean,
welcome back to the coverage of YCS Milan. It is casual round 8. That means we can finally get rid of that tie. And after 7 rounds of Swiss, it's 10 p.m. in the evening, 10:20 in fact. We have a very special match between two Germans. Sona Güngör on the one hand, might not sound like a German name, but he is German. And Oliver Lukenda on the other hand. Why are you smiling?
May not sound like a German name.
You're right.
But it's definitely a German name.
He is, yeah. He's a very good player, so we just invited him into the country. That's how it works. All right. Whether you have just tuned in and you've never seen Yu-Gi-Oh! Before, or you're one of our many regular viewers on the stream and your name is Jack, James, Jenny, or Julia, we welcome you back. 1,461 players, the story of the weekend. Second largest YCS in Europe, largest YCS in Italy of all time.
And the largest YCS of this year.
And that as well, yes. And it's the culmination of a great year. We've had the event recap earlier today where you could hear from the experts what was going on in all of those fun events earlier this year.
Yep.
And this is the ultimate competition, basically, with the Ordeal of a Traveler coming to an end.
Yes, Ordeal of the Traveler is finally coming to an end.
Yeah.
This is the last event. If you're attending here and you've attended all of the other events, then you're getting one of these beautiful mats.
Yes. Interestingly enough, I heard that they are not that popular in Japan.
Really?
Yeah. Very surprising theory. I've never heard this before, but playmats that are very popular in Japan are A, with artworks from cards that have already been released in Japan, which is not the case for these Burning Abyss goodies.
Of course.
Or B, with girls in the artwork.
Okay.
This is, you heard it here first, quite some inside knowledge here. So let's take you to the feature match table where Oliver and Sona have already decided to sit down and have one last match. Sona is looking better than Bruce, and he was like, I don't want to have a feature match. I'm so exhausted.
Now, of course, as we can see on there, it's Shadolls versus Perfect Herald. Now, Perfect Herald is one of my personal favorite decks, just because it says no. That's it. It just says no.
It just says no. Well, it doesn't play any cute monsters, however. You said earlier you like
they're cute enough.
Cute enough.
Yeah.
Right. So here we go. Sona kicking things off with an Upstart Goblin, and he's got a second copy. He's going to take a look at what he draws first, because if it's a tour guide from the Underworld, for example, you would always summon that tour guide first before activating the second Upstart Goblin.
Yeah.
Which is something that all of these veterans know. Sona has had quite some success, not just on the regional level, but also on the slightly more competitive scene. He was a semi-finalist at YCS Brussels, and many, many years ago at YCS Paris in 2011, Sona was also among the top 8 players. Oliver Lukenda, on the other hand, also a veteran in his own right. He advanced to the top 8 at our most recent event in London. All right.
There's the standard Dante play. Rubik and Skarm special summoned. Dante put on top of it. Skarm then sent to the graveyard, so they can activate effect in the end phase. 3 cards sent. Unfortunately, it was Fire Lake, Vanity's Emptiness, and the beginning of the end.
Yeah, not the ideal target.
Not at all.
But then again, I've heard quite some players claim that they don't mind sending a Fire Lake to the graveyard early because they can get it back later on with Dante when they need it the most. And you don't want to draw it into your first turn when you don't have the setup ready, and you want to return it later on and then activate it.
That's
so
correct.
Maybe not that bad after all.
No.
But yeah, he could have hit another good target, yeah.
Now, Graph is coming to hand, and that was a Karma Cut that they set down there.
Yep.
Karma Cut, of course, being incredibly powerful against any deck.
So,
Let's
and
see how
this
it
is
fares.
Lukenda's hand with all those, the Manu of the 10,000 hands, one of the cards that you would expect to
And
see.
there's the Peril of Perfection with an Advanced Ritual up.
Right. Oh, that's a very good start for him.
Yes.
But yeah, let's bring those up for you again. Advanced Ritual Art allows you to ritual summon, just like Shuttle Fusion, without having to send anything from your hand or field to the graveyard, rather from your deck. The downside to that is that it has to be normal monsters.
Oh, here's the perfect Herald of Ultimateness.
And Sona is already, he's like, what is this? I didn't sign up for this when I came here. And Oliver, on the other hand, he's having a good time. He's like, yeah, this is a good deck. This is a real thing.
This is what I'm doing.
It's your own fault if you don't know what this thing is doing.
There's the Advanced Ritual up.
Yeah, no surprise there. And Oliver is smiling. We can see that from our position. Oliver is having a very good time.
Oh, and that is the alternative art version of the cards as well.
All right, so there's the Herald of Ultimateness. That is definitely one of the coolest names in the game, in my opinion.
Yes.
And again, he goes for the Advanced Ritual art first before activating Upside Goblin, because you don't want to draw into those normal monsters. You want to send them straight to the graveyard. So, Ultimateness, in case you're not familiar with the card, says that you can, well, ritual summon it in some other ways. It can only be ritual summoned, and during either player's turn, when your opponent would special summon a monster or activate a spell, trap, or a spell card, trap card, or monster effect, you can send a fairy from your hand to the graveyard, negate the special summon or activation, and destroy the card.
So it says no.
It says no. That's a very short version, yeah. So these are the cards that Oliver is left with. The Archlord Christie is also a very powerful card, if you can get the setup that you need for it. And the Herald of Perfection as well. I want to see a field with Herald of Ultimateness and Herald of Perfection. It's Ultimate Perfection.
Yes.
That's unbeatable. All right. Sona does have the all-important Black Luster Soldier. He just drew into a Solemn Warning.
A little bit too late.
Yep.
Soul Charge, Foolish Burial, and a Seer. So Seer's going to get the effect there.
Yep. So
there's also
slightly
Rubik.
better than last time.
Yeah, there's a Rubik in the graveyard there, so we could see a possible.
Interestingly enough, is there any reason to destroy Dante with the effect of the Ultimateness? I don't think so, is there?
No, it's not really helping.
Yeah, because Dante will just trigger anyway and get something back.
Does Ultimateness say that the effects have to be on the field?
Special summon a monster or activate spell card, trap card, or monster effect. Doesn't need.
So he could stop Dante in the graveyard.
Oh, but then he already had to discard 2 fairies, and he doesn't have that. I mean, he does have some, but you want to save them for the right time.
Karma Cup. This would definitely be the right time.
Yeah, this just screams,
spirit.
Please negate.
Does he have fairy?
Yeah, this is a spirit. I think the Herald of Perfection is definitely a fairy.
He also has the Archlord Christia, who is definitely a fairy as well. Is Manju a fairy? Yes, it is.
Manchu is, yes. And there it goes. Right, so we could not show you the Herald of Perfection, but you might be familiar with the card if you've already been watching our stream from the past events. It's a little bit like the smaller brother of the Herald of Ultimateness. It can negate a spell card, trap card, or monster effect.
The only thing, it's basically the same, except it can't negate summons.
Yes. So the Ultimateness is slightly more ultimate.
Yes.
Right. So Oliver is left with the Archlord, the Herald, and Aratama in his hand. Those are his 3 cards. And now you have to put yourself in Sona's position. And you can't help but wonder, how many fairies does my opponent have in his hand?
Now he's looking to possibly get an Xyz summon out of this. Although he's negating another effect by the look of it. By discarding the
Herald of
Herald of
Perfection.
Perfection.
Yeah, it's also a fairy, but that is the last one, I think.
No, this Archlord Christia.
Archlord. Oh, yeah, the Archlord is, of course,
But
also
I
a fairy.
do believe...
How many fairies does he have in the graveyard now?
Exactly
2?
4.
exactly 4?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he sent 2 with
he has the
ritual
Manju, he
art.
has the ritual card, and he has 2 of the ones that I can't pronounce.
Oh, but he does.
He has to discard it.
Interesting.
He's just making sure that there is no options whatsoever.
Yeah, this is the interesting thing about the Herald deck, in my opinion. You're running low on cards quite fast. You're burning through your deck. But then again, you have a very big threat on the field with that Herald of Ultimateness.
Now, it feels like a bit of a overextension on
So
Oliver's part.
Oliver's part, okay.
Just due to the fact that all that's going to happen now is... Well, Dante's on 2,500, so it's going to get rid of the Manju anyway.
Yep. And Sona is already... Yeah, so what are you going to do now? And Dante switches positions, indicating the end of the battle phase. Sona still has a Solemn Warning and a Black Luster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, in hand. So, not too shabby.
Not too shabby at all, but he does need the Dante to be in the graveyard to be able to play it.
Yeah, I mean, since that is also in the interest of Oliver, that's bound to happen sooner or later. Oliver did find...
Another Herald of Ultimateness. And Aratama's
right.
going to the graveyard
Aratama,
after being Solemn Warninged.
Yep, exactly. So Sona loses 2,000 life points, but... well, Oliver's got 1 more negation, but he cannot really apply pressure or attack.
Not at all.
So...
It's just running dry a little bit.
Yep. So Sona needs to find a way to force another activation from that Herald. So afterwards he can bring out the Black Luster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, and then he does have the upper hand on the field with like no questions asked. And Oliver desperately needs to draw into something here. So Sona is checking his extra deck.
Interestingly, can't actually bring anything out as so far as I can see from the extra deck. Although we know he does have the Alec.
Yeah, he did draw into Alec just now. Also one of the new Burning Abyss monsters, the Malebranch.
And can negate effects when it's sent to the graveyard. So he's going to be able to negate this summon, but then
If he
the
does
effect
so...
will be negated, but only for this turn. And that would be the last card from his hand anyway.
Yep. So very, very bad news for Oliver, who was maybe overextending, like you pointed out here. And
instead, he's not going for... He's going for a Dante there.
why not in attack position? Maybe...
It's Skarm going in the graveyard. I think he does... Well, there's no real point. There's 3,000 defense to try and get through.
Yeah, but why don't you send... He can't send Alec to the graveyard because he special summoned it? Is that it?
Yeah, he'd not be able to use the effect.
Right. So he's just waiting patiently, sitting there, biding his time. Because Sona knows that, yes, there is a big monster on the field, but I'm in a comfortable position. I'm not going to lose anytime soon, as long as I can keep those Dantes on the field. And with a graveyard stacked with Burning Abyss cards, he's, like I said, in a pretty good position.
Now, interestingly, Graf was sent to the graveyard there, and there he is, going to go resolve his effect. Looking at Calcab, and then he goes with Seer. He's just checking his graveyard there.
Yeah, so let's take another look at Sona's field. 2 copies of Dante, the Seer that you mentioned, and the Black Luster Soldier still waiting in his hand, so he's got an ace up his sleeve here. And for someone who didn't even want to come to the feature match table at first, Sona is in pretty good shape here.
Yeah.
You're already looking at the side deck options, aren't you?
I'm looking at the extra deck options of what exactly Oliver is running there.
So Sona gets to search his deck, and then he's going to pass play. There's no response, no action from Oliver. This deck, the question is this deck already a real contender. I mean, he's put up a strong effort with a 5-2 record. Is there something it's still missing? I mean, if it had something like a Thunder Dragon, but Thunder Fairy, that says discard this, you get 2 more fairies to your hand, that would be amazing.
That would be pretty good, yeah.
Because you had enough fodder for these heralds that can...
And he's just drawn another Herald of Ultimateness.
Ooh, that hurts.
It's not as bad as you think. I mean, he does have the ability to negate and destroy 2 cards. But that's still not helping him.
Yeah. So Dante's effect could be activated the following turn. And then Alich is going to be sent to the graveyard, which would foil the effect of the Herald.
And here's basically where
he's forced to activate the effect there. So that makes 1 more card in hand. Sona is not going to go for the Black Luster Soldier before his opponent finds a way to...
he needs to empty Oliver's hand before he even thinks about that.
I think that's what he's definitely going to do.
Is that a Fortune Tune?
Is that a... Come again?
Sona looks like he's looking at Fortune Tune.
Fortune Tune, yeah.
Fortune Tune, it has a very similar effect where it cannot be destroyed. Well, you remove a detached material so it wouldn't be destroyed. You gain 500 life points every turn. And when it's destroyed, you get to add...
2 level 3 monsters.
Yep. So it recurses the deck. Now, Alec, it looks like it's been special summoned.
Yep. And so this is the 3rd rank 3 Exceed summon for Sona.
Temp Tempo would be an interesting choice. Temp Tempo... No, he's not going for Temp Tempo.
No.
He's going for Nightmare Shark now. He's really just kind of bouncing around ideas, isn't he?
Yes, Sona is thinking with his hands here.
Is that Brilliance?
Yeah, he's got all the options. I mean,
is a Giga Brilliant, I think. Which would really help him here, because it means that he could possibly make his Dantes big enough to get over that.
Yep. So that sounds like a real plan here. That would be the first activation that forces, or could force, the first activation. Well, it says everything gains 300 attack.
Yeah, so he'd need 2 activations of it for it to work out.
But it says once per turn.
Yeah, so he's going to need to wait until the next turn to be able to get it.
Right.
That last Dante up to full speed.
And, well, he also, since Sona is a patient player, he's not going to rush things here because he really has no need to. He's also got the Phoenix Wind Blast, which could force another activation of the Herald of Ultimateness.
And Sia went to the graveyard special summoning Rubik. And Oliver just reminded Sona there that because Giga Brilliant is not a Burning Abyss monster, it goes straight to the graveyard.
Right.
Soul Charge. Wow.
Wow. This is going to be big. Big. Wow. As in super huge. And ultimate. This is such a... Oh my god.
He's got 2 negations and he's going to be able to get a field full of monsters.
Yeah, and Sona looks slightly stunned. Checks his graveyard. This is one form of recovery. When you're sitting in a feature match, you're just biding your time, and we can see from our position here that Sona's legs are shaking. He's going left and right, and you can see it for yourself now. Well, not his legs, but you can tell he's breathing heavily, and he's not amused. He's definitely not amused. Wow, that soul charge from the sky. Wow, it's Monster Reborn on steroids.
What?
Yeah, look at it. It just brought back a number of monsters to Oliver's side of the field. And Sona is all but amused here. It denies Oliver the battle phase this turn, but he doesn't mind that. He hasn't been attacking for 3 or 4 straight turns. Just waiting with his Herald of Ultimateness to for Sona to make a move so he could then negate it. So there we go. Oliver dropping down to 4,900. Bringing back 4 monsters.
bringing back 4 monsters there.
So you got your composure back?
Yes,
And this
briefly.
Briefly. This is Gyakuteno Megami.
Ooh.
I think it's from Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon?
Yeah, it is from LOB. What I
Right.
can see there is Oliver is definitely actually looking at Ragnar Zero. Ragnar Zero, of course, destroying any monster that has a higher attack than its normal attack.
Right. So, and level 5 is also very, very relevant for Exceed summons. So he first went for Ragnar Zero. Ragnar Zero. Once per turn, you can detach an Exceed material and target a face-up attack position monster, which
Has a
Who's
different attack than its
yeah,
original
exactly.
attack. Destroy it,
It's
draw a card.
It's a good answer to Dante, and with Giga Brilliant on the field, it's a good answer to anything that is in attack position.
Especially while he still has those 2 fairies.
Yep. Very,
Sat there.
very good answer from Oliver. A very good choice with the Ragnar Zero. He could get rid of the Giga Brilliant.
He's going to be able to stop Dante and Alec. Just asking a quick rules question there.
Yep.
Really should be filled by the judge. The judge is coming over.
And Sona is really, at this point in time, he's not really participating in that game. He's just watching his opponent unleash these big plays.
We'll just remind everybody that this is the first game.
Yes, it's still the first game, and we're already roughly 20 minutes into the match.
Yeah.
So there is a very high chance that this could go to time unless things dramatically shift in the second and the third game, or possible third game, with both players introducing cards from their respective side decks.
Just an interesting statistic at the bottom there that 719 players of the original 1,461 are still playing.
Yeah, there's a big difference to London, because some players were like, well, London was just as big and it started even later then, but then we were making some real progress. It's because in London, you would get a free entry into the MCM Comic Con if you dropped after 2 rounds of competition. And this is why lots of players were like, okay, well, it's not going my way today, so I'm just going to visit the expo instead. Milan is an interesting city. Malpensa, which is officially a part of Milan, but a place in front of Milan, not so much, is what my sources have told me. And there's not that much going on. And Google Maps is also not a friend if you're in this area. When you're looking for a restaurant, you might end up on a field. Some people who had a very particular sense of humor thought this is an open salad bar.
Constella Ptolemy M7 dropping down. He's just mentioning, I believe, about Herald of Ultimateness being able to negate effects in the graveyard.
Yeah, so there's just more disruption for Oliver. So the Constellar being played outside of a Constellar deck. It's also something you don't see.
He's going to return something to hand. And I didn't quite see, what did
You can target one
Oliver
monster
draw into?
on the field or in either player's graveyard and return it to the hand. So you can get rid of a Dante. But it goes back to the extra deck, which is something you don't really want to do half the time.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's better than going to the graveyard.
That is true, yes. But Oliver is so much back into this game. Here he comes using that effect. Also, don't forget, 2,700 attack, not too shabby, that
Not at
Constellar. And while Sona does have some sort of protection with the Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, do not forget that Oliver still holds Herald of Ultimateness, which he can drop for the copy on the field to negate the effect and deny Sona his removal. The other card in Oliver's hand is Nikitama, which is as well a fairy, if I'm not also
I
mistaken.
do believe it's actually a Fiend Spirit.
Yeah, we're trying to bring it up for you guys. Just give us another second.
Oh, it's a Fairy Spirit, so he does actually have the 2 fairies.
Yep. I think Aratama and
Oh, he's
Nikitama.
actually just getting Archlord Christia back into hand. Oh,
And-
he's using it as basically...
And Sona immediately starts counting. He's like, how many fairies are remaining in the
That's a
graveyard?
Fiend. I don't think there's the 4, but there's going to be when you think about it.
Yeah, eventually there's going to be 4. And Archlord Christia
1, 2,
not
3.
staying on the hand, in the hand, but rather coming down right away. And look at this field, how Oliver turned things around. And Christia, of course, is a much, much better Vanity's Emptiness. At least if you can summon it to the field.
Oh, of course.
You also get to return a fairy to your
Yeah,
hand.
of
And,
course, we just couldn't quite see there simply because Ritual Monsters are blue, but there is 2 Heralds in there as well. That gives him the right amount for the Archlord,
So
returning the Manju to hand.
suddenly we thought that Oliver was defeated, but this very, very big soul charge for 4,000 life points, a small investment when you look at what he's getting out of it.
Definitely.
That is playing dividends.
It is a point to remember that you can't actually attack this turn.
Yeah, that's true.
But he also now can't special summon or really play anything that's got an increased attack, which is both of his Dante's currently.
Yep.
If he tries to activate that Dante's effect as well, it's going off the field.
Yeah, so really big, all of this.
Oh, Ragnar's Era is in either player's turn.
Yes.
I have just realised this, and he's just drawn another.
Wasn't Ragnar Zero the
That
one
is
that's
possibly
attack
honest.
position?
No, it's not only an attack position. It's just any, I do believe.
Ragnar Zero, 1 face-up attack position, 1 stay opponent
Oh.
controls. So
So he has done
was
that wrong.
Sona
but
about to shift it to attack position?
he must have done.
Yeah,
That's the only way that would work.
probably that. So,
But that isn't honest that he's just drawn into.
right, so he's got a Blacklisted Soldier, Scarm, and an Honest in hand.
There is currently 4 negations in hand, and there is less than 4 effects that can happen.
Yeah, it's like, I got 4 copies of Solemn Judgment. I'm not going to pay any life points for those. What have you got?
Yeah.
And as you pointed out, at the moment, it's 3 activations that he can force.
Yep.
Mm,
Trying to get that to hand, and he's thinking about negating it. And
There we
he
go.
does. It's probably the best idea, because if that Alex was to go to hand... Sorry, I'm not quite sure why that's still added to hand there. He was using Dante's effect to put it into hand. He discarded a card to negate that. Interesting.
Yeah, slightly confusing here. We are not quite up to date, which is somewhat understandable because our volunteers have been on their feet for,
Quite a long time.
yeah, that's to put it mildly. I think we're counting 14 hours. Yep, pretty much. Even more than 14. So, there we-
Sono's really... Oh, there it goes. He was considering it, and then he did it.
there is the Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, and I
Doesn't
don't
need to
think
pay that cost.
it really matters what he's going to target because Oliver is immediately going to...
Just get rid of it.
Why not negate it?
He's dropping a Scarm. Scarm isn't helping him until the end of the turn.
Now Oliver checking his own graveyard, and he's just deciding what to discard here. I mean,
That Archlord Christia is just crippling. I mean, I don't know if he's trying to get rid of that, although he would be targeting Archlord Christia at this point. Just to try and get his own special summons off. So that he can make some plays, and yeah, he's negated it.
Yep.
At the moment,
so
Sona
down to Blackluster Soldier and Scarm and Alich.
He does have the ability to bring out No, he doesn't have the ability to bring out Blacklist Soldier because Christie is there. I always forget that Christie does that.
Yep. Like we said, Vanity's Emptiness on legs. Quite some strong legs. And this is what Sona came to the same conclusion here. That was one of the biggest comebacks we've seen today. We have seen some one-sided games, especially with Joshua Schmidt, for example, who lost 2-0 against Jens Eckert with a 6 Samurai deck.
It was just kind of nice to just see Herald saying no. And he'd said no long enough for him to win. Yeah. And that's what Herald's for.
He was hanging in there with just one monster in defense position. Well, 3,000 defense is nothing to flinch at. And then eventually that soul charge made all the difference.
And it looks like Oliver is actually smoke screening here, which is a nice tactic. Basically, that just means you shuffle your entire side deck into your main deck and then take 15 cards out. It means your opponent doesn't know exactly what you're doing.
Yep, that's definitely one of the best ways to make sure that your opponent has no idea how many cards you're signing into. Because that can also be a big piece of information to solve that puzzle. That is, how can I win the second and the third duel? When you know, okay, he's only changed 2 or 3 cards, you know that he's not going to completely change his main deck strategy or something like that. Speaking of changing strategies, Sona is playing 2 copies of Ochamba Tree on the side deck as well. We have seen that a few times this weekend. He does have Majesty's Fiend. That's a card he definitely wants to introduce here, I think. Denying his opponent's monsters effects. And that is crucial against Oliver's game plan with those Heralds.
And this Kaios the Shadow Monarch as well,
yep.
Which is just nice. I always like a Kaios the Shadow Monarch is basically just a game ender because it tributes, it removes itself, it deals 1,000 damage.
He doesn't have the Monarch Storm 4th, however, which is otherwise very, very popular with these side decking options, so you can tribute an opponent's card rather than your own.
Now, with Burning Abyss, that's not necessarily a problem. As long as you've not got the spell and trap cards in your zone, you can just bring out one of your Burning Abyss and then just tribute it straight away. And then you're also getting the ability of the Burning Abyss monster.
Right. So, what about Oliver on the other hand? His deck, it seems a little bit like it's prepared against anything anyway with those many disruptive effects that he's running.
Shadow Imprisoning Mirror will be making an appearance. And Night Beam possibly as well, just to make sure that, you know, he's got a bit of an extra removal going on. Raigeki as possible, because it'd be nice to just kind of go Raigeki, negate all of your effects and attack. He's actually running 1 Vanity's Emptiness and none in his side deck as well. So he's really not expecting to have to use it.
Yep. But, well, this tactic has served him well so far.
Definitely.
Yeah, like, sometimes you're like, these guys, they already lost twice, but the level of competition at these events is so very high. It just happens, even the best players. Speaking of which, leading the pack, we're going to take a closer look later, but the first few tables feature our last 9 undefeated players that we have. One of them got down paired. Some familiar names here with Jake Quincy again on a roll, just like in London. Peter Gross, also undefeated. We had him on the stream 2 rounds ago. And Luigi Alici from Italy. They are joined by Daniele Stella, Amir Collins, Kevin Semlali. I also remember that name. Stefano Memoli, former European champion. And 2 times World Championship competitor. Riccardo Rovati and Bastian Bidois. But let's talk a little bit more about that later, and first take another look at the field and hand of both of these guys.
Well, that was an Alec that was special summoned, doing exactly what I kind of just said, which is to tribute straight away. Now that's a Majesty's Fiend. That's going to stop any monster, any effects being activated.
Yeah, that's an amazing opening for Sona.
Especially with enemy control and Phoenix Wing Windblast as well.
Yep.
The advanced ritual arts going out. So almost not caring.
Yeah, he does have ways to work around the menu. he's now relying on the 3000 def. And since Vanity's matches his Fiend, I'm not sure if we have that one in our app, so let's quickly check that for you guys.
Same stats as a Monarch, 2400, 1000, cannot be special summoned, monster effects cannot be activated.
Yep, so that affects both players.
Oh, and he's turning that to attack.
That is very big. Yeah, so now he can simply run over it with the Majesty's Fiend and also deal some damage. That's
Interesting that he bought it out regardless of the fact that that was there. Although he can now actually just bring out a second one.
Yep, Sona did draw into a second enemy controller and he immediately set that card on the field. So no questions asked here. Enemy controller is
he has just passed his turn.
It's an all-star here. Yeah, Oliver does have the money of the 10,000 hands, but doesn't have an effect, so that doesn't really help. Aratama and Nikitama, the two spirits, same problem, no effect, which means they would also stay on the field. And there is a very high chance that we're going to see this game being dominated by this Majesty's Fiend that came down on the very first turn. This is Oliver Lukenda's kryptonite, really. Is that a Maxi that he drew into?
It is.
It
I
is
think
a
he's
Maxi.
just setting it.
Yeah, he is forced to set a Maxi, which is very, very bad news. And again, he passes play with no other action going on here. Maxi, one of the cards that used to be extremely popular. Not so much at the moment.
Alec comes down, destroys the Maxi.
Yep.
There's another advanced ritual up.
Is the effect that the Burning Abyss monster destroys itself, is it using the chain?
It's an activated effect, I believe.
So that's why Majesty's Fiend is also negating that, in case
Yeah.
you're wondering, like I was.
Although it looks like he's just checking on that now. The judges come over
And they're
just
like,
to, I believe, get a replay.
it might be continuous effect.
Yeah, it must be. So they've just changed it so that they've just reversed that. That's not an issue.
Right. But that means that Oliver is back on 5,000 life points. At least if we were right in our way of interpreting
That's
things,
correct.
that we are correct. Well, we did judge some events back in the days.
That was an inherent summon effect, I believe.
Yeah, so he went for Nikitama and Aratama.
And there goes the Phoenix Women Blast.
Yeah, so Sona does have enough answers here. And Oliver might just be looking down. He's staring down a big clock here. Might just be having one or two more turns, really. So now Oliver is back to 2,600. He draws into, is that a Soul
It's a
Charge?
Herald.
That's a Herald. And he knows, he sees the writing on the wall. He cannot defend himself, really. And that Majesty's Fiend coming down on turn one and like dominating the field.
It was just saying no before Herald could say no.
Yeah. So quick equalizer for Sona Güngör. And we are, I believe, 35 minutes roughly into this round. So we got only 5 more minutes. And these guys need to keep this in mind when they are now sideboarding, because if they were running something like Solemn Warning, this is the time to side it out. Sona is in fact playing Solemn Warning with so little time remaining on the clock. Sona's got a Geometry and he's reading over it because it does deal damage as well. It's not just crippling your opponent, it's also dealing some damage. Also, another card that you don't want to run when you're near the timeout is Upstart Goblin.
Of course, you don't want to give your opponent the win.
Yeah, no freebies here.
Got to work for your wins.
Yeah, exactly. And that's very interesting. Both of these games being defined by cards that say you cannot use your effects, with Oliver gaining the upper hand in the first one with an Herald of Ultimateness and, of course, a big Soul Charge. And Sona, on the other hand, dominating the second one with a Majesty's Fiend that was introduced to his main deck from his side deck in between games. And this made all the difference here. Even though he slightly misplayed when he played Alich.
Well, I believe he just didn't know that it was a
Continuous effect,
continuous effect now.
Yeah, although that's really easy to find out in case you're not familiar with the cards, because you can just look at the card text. If there is no semicolon in the effect text, which is the case here, if you control a monster that is not a Burning Abyss monster and there's just a comma, not a semicolon, destroy this card. So no semicolon indicates this effect does not use the chain, and for that reason it doesn't get negated by Majesty's Fiend. So yeah, all you have to do is read the card.
Yes.
Which is very good advice in general. All right. So last time for today, last duel of the day. Sona Güngör, left-hand side, going up against Oliver Lukenda on the right-hand side.
That is a painful hand. That's 2 Archlord Christia, 1 Herald, 2 Fairies? No, just the 1. And 1, I believe that's an Akatama.
Yeah, Sona does have a Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, 2 Malebranche, I believe. There we go. So this is, we got both hands, in fact. Oliver, with 2 copies of Christia that early in the game is not really good. He needs to fill his graveyard with fairies. One option is Advanced Ritual Art, but he doesn't hold that card yet, so that's definitely bad news for him. Gyakuten no Megami is also a 5-star monster, so...
I believe it's actually a 6-star monster there.
Maybe even 6, so you definitely have to tribute for it. Also bad news, and Nikitama is the only card that he can make any use of here, and he sets it. And that is it from Oliver with a, I would say, dead hand.
And he's just done it again. He's just set up exactly the same field they had in the last game.
Right.
But this time he also has a Vanity's Emptiness.
So it's even better than before for Sona. And the good thing about Vanity's Emptiness is you can chain it to a card like Advanced Ritual Art, which is the advantage comparing it to Archlord Christia, which is like a Vanity's Emptiness on legs. And Archlord Christia, of course, did not skip leg day. So what is Oliver looking for here, apart from a Raigeki?
If he sided it in.
Yeah, if he sided it in.
Really? There's not a massive amount.
He just reveals his hand. He's like, yeah, no, this is...
No way I can stop you.
Yeah, he's saying no, but this time to himself. There's nothing he can do. And Sona suddenly changing, his mood changed completely during that match. Goes into the match and he begged me. He was like, I don't want to play. I really don't want to play. I'm so tired. I'm going to make mistakes. I mean, he did make a mistake, but it's just a minor one. It didn't cost him. And turning it around with his side deck.
Very much so. That Majesty's Fiend just completely and totally destroying it. As I said, saying no before anything else could say no.
All right, so that's it for the last match of the day. There is a certain chance that we get to speak with Sona if his spirit remains this high as it just seemed. We put on a great show today. I don't want to pat our own backs, but we had some very exciting feature matches with, we've seen the big 3 decks over the weekend. Shadolls, of course, Burning Abyss and Clifford, with Shadoll coming out successful most of the time, I think.
Well, we only really had one case where it wasn't.
All right.
Actually, no.
We did have 6 Samurai beating Shadoll.
We had 6 Samurai beating Shadoll, and then we had a Shadoll versus Shadoll, which is no real
kind of really
bearing of how Shadoll's doing out there.
Clifford, on the other hand, very explosive one time. The other time going up against Burning Abyss, not standing a chance.
Yeah, when you go up against your counter, you're not really going to be seeing much out there.
And, well, one other thing that we have learned today is that there are a number of other decks that are still a thing, with Satella Knights being in the 5th place, for example, in our metagame breakdown. So let's take a look at the country breakdown. That's something we promised to you. You will see that more than 900 players came here from Italy. Like Italy on its own was almost able to put up a 4-digit number of players. That's just crazy.
That is completely
There is a very good chance that even we've had slightly larger events, but I think we've never never had an event where one nation was sending so many representatives to the tournament.
And, well, I'm not quite sure what London was showing.
There are not that many people in the UK. In second place is Germany with 145 players, sending them down here. Most of them coming by plane, which is one of the advantages of Milan, of course. It's very affordable to come here. And then we got France. This is a strong showing from the French players, because they are, while we have some veterans from France, they are not known to travel as much as the guys from Italy, of course. And oh, you're looking at me like, what? But look at your UK guys. Only 67 showed up.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I can't really say anything to that.
All right. Switzerland, of course, one of the neighboring countries of Italy. You can take the train, and you're going to be here in like 1.5 hours once you cross the border. So that is easy enough. Let's take another look at another statistics. The metagame breakdown of the event. We keep mentioning this quite a few times. Our tech crew is about to be very displeased with me here, making them run through all our graphics. In case you're wondering, PJ is producing those graphics behind the scenes when he's not chatting with you on Twitch, and making sure that we got these we got standings and pairings and the country breakdown.
Everything we need.
Everything we need, I think. Yeah.
All comes from PJ.
Right. So one thing that we could take away from that feature match in that last round, in my opinion, is, well, think about your side deck.
Also, Majesty's Fiend is an incredibly good card.
Yeah.
And many people should be playing it.
You're going to play more games over the course of a weekend with your slightly altered deck, with cards from your side deck, then you're going to play with your original 40 cards, or some people running as high as 60 cards. So I've seen that, especially new players playtesting, and they're like, yeah, this is my initial 40, and they just play with those cards over and over again.
But don't really think about the side deck.
Exactly, and in this situation, you're like, well, I can beat Shadolls, but I cannot beat a Majesty's Fiend.
In this meta, it's all about side decks.
Yeah.
It is literally a game of side decks. You build your main deck to be consistent, to everything like that, but you always have to think about what can I remove from this deck and still make it consistent so that I can use my side deck.
Yes. So these are the 2 or 3 big stories, in fact, of the weekend. We got this very interesting metagame, the not quite triangle, but something differently shaped.
Some sort of weird 4-dimensional object.
Yep. And then we have a lot of players coming up here. And we got many of the veterans that we have seen before, both at YCS Madrid in a slightly smaller field, but extremely competitive, and YCS London with also a 4-digit number in players attending, where we also saw some of the guys like Patrick Reeder, who we had in the feature match earlier, or Peter Gross, or Claudio Kirchmeier is also still here and going strong this weekend. And we've seen quite some innovation as well.
There's been bad reaction to Smochi.
Bad Reficule Burn, winning with deck out. Still, yeah. If you just tuned in, you really need to watch that feature match.
That was amazing.
Once it goes up again. A Nurse Reficule Burn, or Life Equalizer Burn, or Bad Reaction to Simochi. There are apparently 3 different names for the very same deck. This was a very big thing. So let's see if we can bring up another statistics for you guys again. The metagame breakdown of those decks that we have just mentioned. Or tech staff is shaking their head. They're like, no, I don't want to bring this up. We can also bring up the standings prior to the last round. No? There we go. These are the standings of the last round, with a former European champion, Stefano Mimoli, leading the pack. Jake Quincy, 2nd time in a row that he's tearing through the field here. I don't know what he's playing this weekend, but I think it's only him this weekend, not his brother Luke as well.
No,
last time both of them were at the top.
I believe Luke is here. He's just not topped at this point.
All right. Then we got Riccardo Rovati, one of the many Italians in competition. Also on top of the field. It's not just that Italians are filling out the middle of the field or something. They are at the very top of the standings. And Peter Gross, who we saw earlier, also very much on top of things here. And you can tell it's only 9 players remaining with a perfect record.
Yes.
That's also, even though we have that many players, thanks to the Swiss system, eventually everybody's going to end up with a defeat, or one guy might be undefeated, but that's going to be it. It's only one guy remaining undefeated after those 2 days. So we're going to take a very short break. We're going to be right back with Sona Güngör, who we're going to talk to after this stunning victory against Oliver Lukenda in the last round for day 1 of YCS Milan.
Rampage! Geargia monsters can build anything! Massive robots! Super tanks! You can get it together with Geargia Rampage! A full 42-card deck! Get your gear on!
Konami.
Yu-Gi-Oh! The new challengers! A new generation battles for supremacy! Fusion, Ritual, Synchro, Xyz, and Pendulum monsters! These new challengers come in every form! 9 cards per pack, each pack sold separately.
Konami.
We're back one last time from YCS Milan, the largest European YCS of the year. And we're here with Sona Güngör, who just, congratulations on that victory.
Thank you.
You came over and you said, I don't want to have a feature match.
Yes, because I'm so tired, and because I'm tired, I make mistakes, and the people saw it on the feature match.
And they think you're not...
And I'm not so skilled player, and
well,
so I didn't want it, but it's okay, I won, so...
In the end, all is well that ends well. What about your deck? You're running Burning Abyss. You mentioned that you wanted to play Shadolls earlier.
Yes, last week I wanted to play Shadolls because I'm playing Shadolls since 3-4 weeks, and I'm really familiar with Shadolls. But after testing with my teammates, United Gozos, I found out that's not so consistent. Sometimes with your 5 starting hands, you have unplayable hands with the White Dragon, Viper Buster, Black Dragon, Collapse Serpent, and 2 Shadolls. So you have just to pass, and the game become really
it's very fast at the
faster
moment.
now. And if you just set 1 Shadow Hedgehog or 1 Falcon, and your opponent starts with 2 Dante, so you're really under pressure. And
so you don't no longer have that time to just wait for your setup or your cards to appear. Really.
Yes. This was the decision why I changed to Burning Abyss and lent from friends the cards. Yeah.
Okay. What about, didn't Shadolls used to be extremely consistent? Is it mostly the speed, or did something else change as well?
The next, the recent set, next challengers was the reason, because Clifford is really fast. He can OTK you in just 1 turn, and so you cannot just pass with 1 set Falco or 1 set Hedgehog. And also, Burning Abyss is really fast, can make you, can also OTK if you have the perfect hand with Virgil and multiple Dantes. So yeah, the next set was the reason.
All right. Run us through the games against Oliver Lukenda just now. The first game took forever.
Yeah.
with a Herald of Ultimate.
Perfection?
No, it wasn't the Perfection. It was the other one with Ultimate something.
I don't remember the
Yep.
name.
Sitting in defense position the whole time. What is going through your head? Because you had 2 Dantes, you had a Blackluster Soldier in hand. You're like, I can win this. I just need to find this window.
It's always difficult against such stun decks. You have to plan more turns in the future. So I try to make multiple Dantes with Alichs, which can negate effects from the opponent.
Yep.
And so I wanted to build 2 Dantes, and
you see,
and in the future turns I wanted to play the Giga Brilliant and push my Dantes to 26, and after this turn to 31.
Yep.
Because
so
he has 3000 defense and it's really hard to kill. You have Blackluster Soldier cannot beat it, Acid Golem cannot beat it. I tried to, but unfortunately he top decked the Soul Charge.
What's happening in your head when this happens? You're like, I'm in the feature match.
Flip table was my flip table was in my mind.
But we could tell that your legs under the table was also like you were shaking and everything. But you kept your calm, and then your side deck made all the difference in the second and the third game with Majesty's Fiend.
Yeah, Majesty's Fiend is really strong against this matchup because it's a continuous effect. It don't activate. So if he summon his perfect Herald.
Herald of Ultimateness.
Herald of Ultimateness, yes. And you have your Karma cards and Wing Blast. You can just, after he summoned him, you can just
get rid of it.
Get rid of it and you just beat down with your Majestic Fiend.
Sure, yeah, and that worked 2 times in a
row. And also, I sided 3 enemy controller, which is also 3 more outs. You can just switch
that was very strong in
Herald
that. Yeah, we've seen
attack.
that with your Majesty's Fiend simply attacking over it.
I sided Dark Hole, also 1 more out against it, and yeah.
But isn't Majesty's Fiend, it seems such a strong card. Isn't there a deck that wants to play it main deck, apart from Monarchs, of course, or something like that? Wouldn't that be something to tackle the metagame here?
It's not that strong against Clifford.
Okay.
That's the reason why I didn't made it. And I played, today I played against 5 Shadolls, I guess.
Oh, okay.
2 Clifford and 1 Perfect Herald. And the Majestic Fiend was really handy today. All my games against Shadolls I won with Majestic Fiend.
Yep.
And I also sided 3 Diffusion. So if I have a Majestic Fiend on board, the only card how you can get rid of Majestic Fiend are the fusions. And if you have Diffusion set, Karma card set, Phoenix Wing Blast set, you cannot break the board. All the time I won with Majestic Fiend today.
We had a good time here commenting on that match because we were like, first game is Oliver saying no the whole time with his Herald, and the second and the third game your Majesty's Fiend was like saying no to his effect.
I say no to you.
What happened with the Alich when Majesty's Fiend was on the field, when he summoned Alich? You thought that it triggers?
I just asked if I just asked if you can negate the graveyard effect because I'm not that familiar with the new Herald.
It's very easy. There's no semicolon in the card text. It doesn't trigger. So Majesty's Fiend doesn't negate it, I think. That's as easy as it is. In the future. So that's going to be some good advice for tomorrow. What about your other 2 losses that you had today? What was that?
I lost against a Clifford, which made 3 Maxi. And Maxi is really annoying against Burning Abyss.
Of course, yeah.
And all 3 games I lost 2-1. All 3 games he had Maxi in the starting hand, so I cannot build a
big field or something.
A big field, yes. Yeah. And this was the reason why I lost. I lost in timeout. And the second game I lost because I was, I make really many misplays in this. Also in timeout
today. All right. Well, you're going to be back tomorrow, and you're going to be fresh 100%. I'm pretty certain of that, right?
I hope so. I'm 16 now, so I have to win all 3 games tomorrow, and I will gather some tips from my teammates, and I hope I can top this event.
Well, it certainly looks like it from what we saw just now.
Yeah.
That's it with Sona Güngör, the last player that we featured today at YCS Milan, record-breaking attendance. We're going to be back tomorrow with more player interviews, with more deck features, with more feature matches, of course. And you can watch all of that live on the stream. We're going to be live from something like 9 in the morning on. So set your clocks. That's it for today. After 8 rounds of competition, we hope you enjoyed the show and you're going to be back tomorrow. Have a good night.